If you meet someone named Kale, their name means one who is manly and strong. If Popeye ate spinach to get his guns, the Incredible Hulk probably ate kale. Welcome to Superfoods. Today we're going to teach you how to tame kale's bitterness and make one of the world's oldest cultivated vegetables work to your advantage. Move over, spinach. There's a new supergreen in town, and it's kale. Until the Middle Ages, kale was one of the most popular vegetables in Europe. It's been cultivated for well over 2,000 years. Kale grows native as far north as Russia and as far south as the Mediterranean coast. Kale is in the same family as broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. They're all great, and some may even be superfoods. But according to the Andy score for all of these foods, kale is leaps and bounds above the rest. Here's the breakdown. Kale is extremely high in vitamin A. A single cup of kale has over 200% the daily recommended value. Vitamin A promotes healthy eyes. A study by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people who consumed over 150% of their daily minimum of vitamin K each day were 22% less likely to suffer from cataracts than those who didn't. K is for kale, and by that we mean that kale is chock full of vitamin K. Vitamin K creates 4 of the 13 proteins our blood needs to clot. It's also vital to bone health. A 2001 study by the Nutrition Journal found that people who consumed less than 120 micrograms of vitamin K per day of their daily value had about 10% lower bone density than those who consumed over 120 micrograms. And 1 cup of kale has 547 micrograms. You're covered 4.5 times over. Now let's compare kale to Popeye's favorite, spinach. You can use kale instead of spinach in any spinachy recipe, and here's why you should sub in that kale as much as possible. Even though spinach is famous for being iron-rich, kale has more. There are lots of different varieties of kale. The most common are Russian kale, curly green kale, and Tuscan kale. Tuscan kale is also known as Cavolo Nero, dinosaur kale, and black kale. All types are good, as far as nutrition is concerned. But the Tuscan kale is sweeter and nuttier, whereas the curly kale is far more bitter. And red kale falls somewhere in between. When choosing kale, pick smaller leaves. They tend to be more tender and less bitter. But the longer you store them, the more bitter they will become. So store them like you would cut flowers. Trim the stems and keep them in a cup of water. They can even sit on your counter for 1 to 2 days, or in the refrigerator for up to 5. When preparing kale, always wash it in cold water before using it. Because kale grows best in gritty soil, it's best to wash and rinse it a few times. If your kale is looking limp, give it a dip in ice water to crisp it back up. Want some green eggs and ham? Mix kale puree with your eggs before cooking it to give it a superfood power and a great green hue. You throw out a lot of the nutrients when you throw out the water that kale is boiled in. Many recipes have you boil kale before cooking with it to get rid of its bitter flavor. Instead, try using sweeter dinosaur kale and sauté it or steam it. To give your kale a softer texture, throw it in a bowl with a pinch of salt. Massage it for 2 to 3 minutes, then squeeze out the juices.